Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there is a ton of news stories to get into today, so let's talk about Brock Lesnar. Yes, Brock Lesnar is back, or he will be back this coming Friday night on SmackDown on Fox, because WWE has announced that Brock Lesnar will be returning from his suspension enforced by WWE official Adam Pearce, of course, after Crown Jewel, after Brock Lesnar attacked Pearce. Brock was in this indefinite suspension that then was revealed at Survivor Series to no longer be indefinite, and it was finally announced by Kayla Braxton on SmackDown that the Beast is coming back. Yes, Brock Lesnar is set to return to SmackDown next week at the AT&T Center in San Antonio, Texas. Now, as I mentioned, WWE announced during Friday's post-Survivor Series edition of SmackDown on Fox that Lesnar will be making his return from the indefinite storyline suspension that was recently handed down. Now, as has been noted, WWE did an angle where Lesnar attacked crew members and Adam Pearce during the October 22nd edition of SmackDown. Of course, Lesnar was angry over his controversial loss to the Universal Champion Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel the day before. It was essentially a rehash of the angle they did on Monday Night Raw in 2015, the night after Brock Lesnar lost the WWE World Heavyweight Championship to Seth Rollins, when Rollins infamously cashed in the main event of WrestleMania. The following night on Raw, he came out. He was meant to have a match against Rollins. Rollins ran away, and what did Lesnar do? He attacked announcers, he attacked officials, he attacked the cameraman. Stephanie McMahon came out and said, "You're suspended." They did the same angle. They did the same angle a couple of weeks ago, and Lesnar is now coming back. Now, this led to Adam Pearce issuing a $1 million fine to Lesnar and suspending him indefinitely. WWE continued that Lesnar suspension storyline at Survivor Series last Sunday, where Kayla Braxton approached Paul Heyman and said that she had heard that Lesnar's suspension was no longer indefinite. The Lesnar suspension rumors continued throughout SmackDown on Friday until Kayla was informed at the end of the show that Lesnar's suspension was officially lifted, and he will be back on SmackDown on Friday. So, it's an interesting setup, of course. It's a strange one. Look, Lesnar's advertised for the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, which is on Saturday, January 29, from the Dome at America's Center in St. Louis. So, look, he's going to be at the Rumble. I think Lesnar's going to probably, I would assume, actually be in the Rumble match. What they're building towards, and what was always their plan, really, apart from plans kind of were tweaked slightly when CM Punk came to AEW, they realized they needed a big name, and they needed something big and a big shot in the arm when it came to SummerSlam in August, so they brought Brock Lesnar back early. The plan always was to do a main event at WrestleMania 38 in Texas, which was going to be Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. Punk came back to AEW, or to pro wrestling. They had that big Saudi show that they needed a big main event for, and obviously Lesnar makes a lot of money anyway, but he certainly makes a lot of money on those Saudi shows, so plans were kind of tweaked. But as of right now, as far as I don't have inside sources here, I'm trying to read the room a little bit, but it certainly looks like the plan is still Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, main event of WrestleMania. It's also no coincidence that next year's WrestleMania is taking place in Texas at AT&T Stadium, so of course now he's coming back. Where is he coming back? San Antonio, Texas, AT&T Center, maybe laying the sort of foundations for the match to happen at WrestleMania. It does kind of make a lot of sense, doesn't it? It does make a lot of sense. So I think that Lesnar will come back. I don't know if it sets up a match between Brock and Roman Reigns at that day one pay-per-view, which is a big deal for WWE. It certainly is for Nick Khan. He's made a big stink out of this, and he's certainly doing his best to promote it. That's why they're not having a pay-per-view in December. It's Nick Khan's baby. So I don't know. It's certainly interesting. I think, to be honest with you, Brock coming back this early, considering we're still in November, it's not as if, the Royal Rumble was at the end of January. Essentially, it's 2 months away. The fact that Brock Lesnar's coming back from this indefinite suspension that was handed down last month, I think goes to show that essentially WWE doesn't have a clue. They're running out of people already, and their thought process is kind of, we don't really have anyone to go up against Reigns. We need television. What can we do? Bring back Brock, and that's the plan going forward. Speaking of the Universal Championship, we have a new number one contender, and it's Sami Zayn. I don't think many people saw this one coming at all. Sami Zayn is the new #1 contender to WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns. Now, as I mentioned, on Friday's post-Survivor Series edition of SmackDown on Fox, it was headlined by a Black Friday Invitational Battle Royal to determine the next challenger to the Tribal Chief. Now, the match was won by Sami Zayn, who was knocked out through the middle rope earlier on in the match. You know that classic, every time there's a Battle Royal, you always get the person of, they went through the middle ropes and then they stay on the outside and eventually they come back. Sometimes they win, sometimes they don't win. In this case, Sami Zayn won, because the finish saw Jeff Hardy eliminate Happy Corbin to get the apparent win, but then Zayn re-entered the ring and tossed Hardy out of the ring for the victory. Now, the 18-man Battle Royal included the likes of Eric and Ivar, Angel, Humberto, Mace, Mansoor, Cesaro, Ricochet. By the way, how many one-name people there? That is crazy. Drew Gulak, Rick Boogs, Jinder Mahal, Shanky, Madcap Moss, Ridge Holland, and Sheamus. Now, there's no word yet on when Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns is going to happen. Of course, once we find out, we'll talk about it here on the channel. Surprising, really surprising. I think it goes to show as well that we've been talking about this for a while, haven't we, about I really hope, I've said it here before as well, I really hope Jeff Hardy gets another shot at a world championship. Is Jeff Hardy ever going to be the Universal Champion? No. Is Jeff Hardy ever going to be the WWE Champion again? At this stage in his career, not just because of his age, but the baggage that comes with it, no, he's not. And it's not the right, Jeff Hardy probably shouldn't be WWE Champion or Universal Champion at this stage in his career. But can you do a program with Jeff Hardy and Roman Reigns over the Universal Championship? Absolutely. Is Jeff Hardy credible to face Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship? Absolutely. Is Jeff Hardy still one of the most popular babyfaces on the WWE roster? Absolutely. It makes sense, especially at this point of the year. As I mentioned before, once Survivor Series comes and goes, you have this dead space, this absolute dead space every year where WWE programming just becomes so mundane, and they're already looking forward to the next year. They're already starting to think about the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania and the Saudi show that usually happens in February as well. All that kind of stuff. They don't care. And not that, you should waste this program between Jeff Hardy and Roman Reigns, but just give the fans, do a better fan service. The fans obviously want to see Jeff Hardy with another opportunity at the Universal Championship. But just because Sami Zayn won on Friday, I don't think that it doesn't mean we're not going to get Reigns versus Hardy. I still do think we're going to get that at this point. It kind of just felt like, because of course Sami Zayn's contract's coming up, I don't know if it's the end of the year or at the same time as Kevin Owens in January. It's reportedly not far off. And a lot of people, myself included, are like, he's gone too, because he don't fit. And I know Vince McMahon might like him, and he's a good promo, and obviously excellent in the ring, all that kind of stuff. But just at this point, culturally, schedule, the type of pro wrestling, Sami Zayn fits into that AEW bracket, and I think he'll go as well. Is this WWE trying to convince Sami Zayn, stay? I don't think so, because he's not going to win the Universal Championship. I don't think it convinces him to stay at all, to be honest with you. And it's a bit of an odd pairing, just because you've got the top heel in WWE in Roman Reigns and an annoying heel in Sami Zayn. Arguably, people won't really be cheering for Sami Zayn in that one. They'll be cheering for Roman Reigns, and is that something that WWE really wants to do? So it's an odd pairing. I'm very happy for Sami Zayn to get the opportunity. Don't get me wrong. It feels a bit strange, doesn't it? But I think eventually it leads to Jeff Hardy versus Roman Reigns. And I do think, like I said before, I think we are going to get that program. When? Maybe it's going to be at that day one pay-per-view. Maybe it's going to be Reigns versus Jeff Hardy. For me, that's a perfect main event for that event. And I think, again, Jeff Hardy is absolutely credible to be in a Universal Championship main event. And especially if you portray it as maybe this is the last hurrah of Jeff Hardy's career. Maybe this is going to be the last World Championship match he ever has inside of a WWE ring and his career and all that kind of stuff. It works. There's a lot to get into there. There really is. So I don't think I would rule that one out, but look, Brock's getting into the conversation now, and again, I think Brock's going to be competing in the Royal Rumble. I don't know if he's going to be competing in that day one pay-per-view, but it's an interesting one. And again, when they have this match, I don't know, it'll probably take place on Fox. Maybe they'll have what they had last year. Of course, they did have a Universal Championship match. I mean, Christmas Day was actually on a Friday last year, so they had that big Christmas Day edition of SmackDown that did that huge ratings number because of the football games and all that kind of stuff. They're not going to have that this year, but maybe that's when they have it around that period. You'll have Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship, and maybe it will draw. And if it does, good on Sami Zayn. Good on Sami Zayn. So curious to see how that one plays out. I am. Finally, let's talk about Edge, WWE Hall of Famer, another fellow Canadian of Sami Zayn. Edge is returning to WWE programming next week because WWE has announced a big return in 2 matches for Monday's Raw from the UBS Arena in Belmont Park, Element, New York, Long Island, in their debut in that new venue. Of course, this is kind of the edition of Raw that's got a lot of people talking because it's the same one that, of course, AEW is going to be running Dynamite in. It's not this coming week, it's the week after, and it's the one that Dynamite was selling out better than WWE and all this kind of stuff. It's the debut in that venue, all that kind of stuff. But Edge is going to be returning on that programming. Monday's Raw will feature 2 singles bouts, which include Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor, of course continuing on their angle from last week, plus WWE Champion Big E versus Kevin Owens in a non-title match. Of course, Kevin Owens turned heel by attacking Big E a couple of weeks ago. WWE has also announced that the Raw from Long Island will feature the return of WWE Hall of Famer Edge. This will be Edge's first red brand appearance since the WWE draft, and his first appearance since defeating Rollins in a Hell in a Cell match at Crown Jewel in late October. So what he's going to be there to do, I don't really know. I don't know, obviously, to start his next feud. Whoever that will be against is certainly not going to be against Rollins. Will he declare his intention for the Royal Rumble pay-per-view? That seems a bit early, but he did win it last year. Maybe he'll do the same. Or he's going to start, obviously, his next feud as opposed to who that's going to be. I'd love for it to be Kevin Owens or something like that. Maybe it is Kevin Owens. Maybe it's Big E. Maybe he goes and after the Kevin Owens match, maybe Edge says, Big E, you and me, day one, January 1st, let's do it. And Big E will defeat Edge, and that will certainly make Big E feel like a much more credible champion. Not to say that he isn't anyway, but after losing against Reigns at Survivor Series, defeating Edge in a pay-per-view match, that's a big deal, and it's certainly a great selling point for day one as well. So I wouldn't necessarily be totally surprised if Edge maybe comes back for a WWE Championship opportunity. And I know people will be like, oh, he faced Roman Reigns and old guys coming back, all that kind of stuff. Edge ain't winning the WWE Championship. That's the difference here. It's not like Goldberg coming back and you're worried like, I don't know what could happen. You never know. It's Edge coming back and he's going to put Big E over. So I think that's probably going to be the case. But certainly very interesting. Nevertheless, guys, as always, it's just one man's opinions. What are your thoughts on all of these WWE news stories we've spoken about today? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Got the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestling News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right-hand corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or having come across this video today. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.